Hello and welcome everyone to my lecture on information security management. My name is Tim Stuchtey and I'm a professor here at the German University of Digital Science. Today I brought a guest with me, Nadine Nagel. Thanks for being here.
Sure, thank you.
You studied at the University of Technology in Dresden in electrical engineering and management. You have a long career behind you, 15 years with IBM in different positions. At the end, as the chief security officer and a member of the management board for a subsidiary of IBM that dealt with the non-military IT aspects of the German armed forces. Then you moved on and worked in executive positions for several European technology companies. And in 2020, you made a very interesting move and moved from the private sector to the public sector and worked for the BSI, or I have to look up the name, the German Federal Office for Information Security, where you oversaw cybersecurity for critical infrastructure and developed digital consumer protection initiatives. Today, you are on the board of Eurobits. Maybe we speak about what you're doing there a little bit later. But most importantly, of course, you are a visiting fellow at BICS, the Brandenburg Institute for Society and Security, where I'm the director. So Nadine, thank you for being here and for discussing with us today information security management, but in particular, information security strategy. And let me ask my first question straight away. We always say that the involvement of leadership, of an organization's leadership, is most important for the success of a strategy. Now, how do you get the leadership properly involved in the process of creating the strategy, but then afterwards also living the strategy and breathing life into it? How do you do that?
Well, first of all, cyber risk is oftentimes overlooked, but it should be part of the general risk management corporation. That's what I believe. And as it becomes part of the general risk management in an enterprise, it becomes part of the whole management within a company. So it's not just, cyber risk is not just IT, but it can be a threat to operation, it can be a threat to financial results, but also to reputation. And therefore, it should be part of the enterprise risk strategy. And most of all, and I think that's probably the most convincing argument, is that cyber risks become more and more also a matter of personal liability of CEOs or other C-level management. So if a company or an organization is subject to a cybersecurity incident, a major cybersecurity incident, and it can be proven that C-level didn't do anything to raise the bar in terms of security measures, then the management team, the board, can be reliable, personally reliable for the financial loss or even for taking down the business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the liability issue is what has to get them involved.
Yes.
Because otherwise, they feel it in their own pockets if they are not doing it properly or not at all. But can leadership also, let's say, a more proactive role by being a role model for the staff in their organization, or doesn't it really matter? Is it just the liability issue?
It's not only liability. Liability is just a matter that maybe catches the CEO's attention to get involved. But cybersecurity in general should not only be top down, but it should also be bottom up. So it should meet somewhere in between. And I find this a very good idea to speak of a role model, because a cybersecurity strategy is only effective when employees and management levels see that it's also implemented and lived by the management team, by the management board. So to be a role model is very essential for the effectiveness of a cybersecurity strategy.
Okay. That's the role of leadership. But in order to learn about what the strategy says and what the goals are, and also what the leadership thinks about it and how it is breathing life into it, I think communication plays a major role, especially the organization's internal communication. So is there, what are the success factors there that, especially in internal communication, people, learn about the strategy and act accordingly?
I find especially internal communication very essential in order to show importance of cybersecurity within an organization, but also to give people guidance and show support. But not only show support, but provide support, be it mentally, but also in terms of resources and financial support. Cybersecurity costs some money, yes, and there should be dedicated resources allocated in order to raise the bar for security measures and to implement security.
Okay, so that's how we, let's say, discuss, or how the strategy is being communicated within a company or any other organization. Is it also something that needs to be communicated outside to your customers or maybe your suppliers, or does it remain closed shop within the firm?
Well, if the level of security within a company is at a level where you can talk about it outside, you don't have to be embarrassed to talk about outside, it's probably very beneficial to talk with your partners, your business partners, or your clients about it, because it forms kind of digital trust, trust in your products, in your services by your clients, but also might be helpful in getting new partners and trustful partners, right? So I find external communication very important. On the other side, it's obvious that you don't want to talk about precise security measures you have taken in your enterprise to not make you vulnerable to the outside, right? Or to prevent people from the outside knowing about your security measures in detail.
But I like your criteria. Do you feel embarrassed about the level of security in your company, yes or no? If you don't, then you're good, then you can talk about it. It reminds me of, let's say, other criteria. Would you tell your grandma about it, yes or no? So, okay, good. Let's switch to governance, the governance structure of cybersecurity within a company, and who should be in charge of implementing the strategy, and where should they be located within the organizational chart of a company?
Actually, that's a very critical question, because oftentimes security is located somewhere in the IT department. But I believe, and that's also my experience, that the security, or the chief security officer, for instance, should report directly to the management board and not be someplace else far away from the board in the organization. And there are different reasons to that. It's power to implement measures. It's providing resources and management support. But it's also a matter of fact that, for instance, interest of like the CIO or the chief security officer, they might differ from each other, right? So it's better to get this straightened out. On the one hand, CIO and CISO kind of need each other, but on the other hand, they might have contradicting goals. They fight maybe for the same resources. The CIO probably is more interested in functionality and providing useful hardware and software, while security measures sometimes can add time or be painful to go through, right? But on the one hand, it's very important that they work together, but on the other hand, the CISO needs as much power as other C-level positions to get their work done.
And is your answer independent of the size of the company or the level of digitalization, or does this in one way or the other matter?
Well, for small organizations, it's obvious they might not even have this role, like a chief security officer. So it might be the case for smaller organizations that one person has several roles, so even might be conflicting roles within one person, that an organization needs to be aware of. So I find it much easier for larger organizations to separate those different functions. And you just mentioned digitalization. Of course, the more digitalization, the bigger the surface, attack surface, and therefore we have more security issues to solve, the more we digitize.
Good. Now, at the beginning, we spoke about the liability of the board. So the liability is because there are certain rules that make them liable. In general, would you say that the government should be more involved, set more rules in order to enforce a higher security level when it comes to cybersecurity? I mean, you've been on both sides of the aisle. So, yeah, what's your perspective on that?
Well, coming to regulation, that's a great question because it's a great challenge currently, since so many new regulations come along the road. And I personally think we have to find the right balance between regulations and requirements and bureaucracy on the other hand. So regulation should enforce personal liability for taking cybersecurity measures in an organization, in an enterprise, but not demand single security measures. That should be part of the decision of a company and should be decided by management or by a team of the company, but not regulated by a nation. And regulation can provide the basis for more practical help to organizations that might be overwhelmed with new security measures and implementing them. So they can provide practical help, but also the basis for financial aid. So what I want to say is regulation can help take personal liability for implementing security measures, provide practical help, but also financial aid, but should not be a pain in terms of bureaucracy. We rather invest in security measures than in paper.
When you speak about the pain of bureaucracy, I guess it's important to understand that you and I, we come from a country that is, to put it mildly, well regulated or overburdened with bureaucracy. So that makes a difference. I guess my question is, if you come from if you do cybersecurity in a country that is not so heavily regulated, where it's not so the framework is not as, to put it in a positive way, sophisticated as it is here in Germany, would your answer change?
Um, it, well, it would change for some parts of our country. A nation should regulate and enforce security measures to protect their critical infrastructures. So that probably needs more regulation than other parts of the economy. And but even there, we should have the right balance in requiring certain measures on the one hand, but also looking at audit results that those critical infrastructures have to go through. So most of the times they have certain security requirements, and the way how they prove to public institutions like the BSI that they have implemented what they are required to do so, they go through audits and provide audit documentation and proof that they have done so. And I think that's a correct way. That's a lot of work, but I think in terms of critical infrastructures, we got to do it. That's our homework. But then we need to find a good balance with the remaining economy and companies and organizations in Germany or in other nations, because we want them to use their scarce resources to raise their security level. We don't just want them to prove on paper what they have thought would be good to do, right? That's my point.
All right, understood. Maybe we can change a little bit the topic here, or shift to a different part of strategy. There are still not very many women in the field of cybersecurity. You are a rare breed. So what needs to be done in order to get more women interested to get into cyber and to work in this field? Do you have any recommendations for women following you in on your career path?
Well, there are several starting points throughout education where we can provide practical help. Well, one major role in helping women to make decisions for their life, what to do later on, I think is inclusive education, starting in kindergarten and in school. If our education were more inclusive, and it would be more obvious that women proceed a career or proceed topics that are more technical or security-like, then it would be easier for them in later life. But currently I see that oftentimes societal values hinder us to provide a development to boys and girls, or men and women, that are not limited by values or perspective in our society. So we should start earlier than in college or university. We should start at an early stage of kindergartening and education, but we can't stop after school, because every stage of life has their challenges in terms of making the decisions in terms of one's future. So inclusive education is one topic. changing our societal values. It should be natural that a woman can be an IT security analyst, as it should be natural that a man can be a kindergarten teacher, right? So, but I don't have the feeling that we're there yet at this stage.
Obviously not.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
And then during school and maybe also later during college, I have the feeling that offerings in terms of security classes or extracurricular classes are oftentimes more focused on men, because currently more men attend those classes or seem to be more interested. But I think if we move away from the nerdy image of security to a broader perspective, where security has a great value for society and can be applied in different fields of society, it might become more transparent how big the variety of professions are in the field of security and what different skills are needed. For instance, yes, I need IT analysts to watch monitoring systems to find out whether we are attacked, for instance. That might require more technical skills. But on the other hand, I also need people who are able to communicate security information to people that might not be familiar with it. Yeah. So I also need people that communicate well, that know about psychology. How do I communicate with regular people who never deal with security, right? To educate them, but also we need to show that there's more value to working in security than just looking at codes or analyzing cyber attacks. That's my point.
Well, you said at the beginning that it's important to start early in kindergarten. But we're here at a digital university. So what's the role that an organization like ours can play here? Or is it too late and we just have to live with the fact that probably most people watching us right now are men?
I think the University of Digital Science can provide a lot to help with this program, with this problem we just discussed, and to raise the attractiveness of security to women. For instance, a digital university can offer high flexibility in terms of education. So students don't have to do it like full time, but they can do it part time, maybe to a job or to other tasks they have in life. So more flexibility is surely one issue. Then, since it's all digital, the university can provide a safe space for trying out fields of interest that people might be afraid of in an analog environment. But in a digital world, it's easy to provide these, or it's easier to provide these safe spaces for women or girls, for instance, to try out new fields, right? They might not even know that they're interested in it, but they can try and find out, right? So that's really helpful. Moreover, the German UDS could help demystify cyber and provide a broader perspective to get away from the nerd view of security, more to show the variety of job opportunities in the field of cybersecurity. If you look at the BSI, for instance, the German Federal Office for Information Security, they have a lot of tech nerds, but they have a lot of people who are very familiar with jurisdiction, with the new cyber regulations, with providing students, regular people, senior citizens information that they can understand, right? So that's also very essential and shows how big the variety of fields of work is within cybersecurity. And the UDS can also enable a cross-entry into cybersecurity. So you might come from another field, from another profession within the IT business, or from marketing or communication or whatever, you name it. And this provides a way of getting a cross-entry into cybersecurity. So I think it's a big value.
All right. Well, let's hope that we live up to these standards and that we can provide that function and role. But first of all, Nadine, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today. And I hope you are still confused, but on a higher level. Thank you very much.
Thank you.